Hello everybody, I'm going to show you how to make this cute notebook made from a little golden book. This one's of hymns. I've put paper on the back and I've put nice pretty paper on the inside front cover and on the inside of the back cover. I have a nice little ribbon here to bookmark. I have lined paper behind the story, and the story I've put right in the middle. In this case it's hymns. I put it right in the middle, so you have lined notebook paper in the front and in the back. And this is the perfect little notebook to use for just notes for everywhere. It would be really perfect for like Bible study notes. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing you want to do is use an X-Acto knife to cut the binding off of the book. I just use a metal ruler and an X-Acto knife, and you want to cut a straight line down where the binding meets the book pages. Okay, I want to be able to see the cardboard all around the entire book. So I'm just going to use a paper cutter and cut off the edge of the book where the binding was so that it's all cardboard and you can see all cardboard. Just going to cut a little bit more off because it's still not showing just the cardboard. And there we go. That's exactly what I want it to look like. Now we're going to cut a little bit off the back so it's all the same size. I guess I should measure the front cover to make sure I get the same exact size. So we're going to cut it right at the same size as the front cover. And finally, we're going to cut all the pages that run inside the story, or in this case the hymns, all cut to the exact same size, the exact same width as the front and back cover of the little golden book. I'm just going to speed up the video here. Now I'm going to get ready to cut my lined pages, so I'm just going to jot down the measurements of my paper here, and I'm using my cute little notebook that I made with the Beauty and the Beast golden book. Use it for all my notes. So I'm just going to write down the measurements of the length and width of the book so that I will have it to refer back to when I'm cutting my papers. Sometimes it's easier to make the measurement from the inside of the book. It's not as worn as the outside most of the time, so that's where I'll take my measurement from sometimes on these. The paper I use for these is just regular old college ruled filler paper from any store. I probably got this from Walmart. And you just take a little chunk at a time, and I'll show you how I cut my paper here. The first thing I want to do is cut the circles off, the binder holes. I typically like to leave the red line if I can, so I'm going to try and cut as close to the end of the holes, that next to the holes, as possible. So you can see there that it's pretty close to the holes, and that's exactly what I want to do. Still shows the little red line. The next part I'm going to take off is the very top, because I don't like that fat top, so I just want the line to be, you know, the same size as all the rest of the lines. It's just my own preference. You can do whatever you like. If you like that top line being fat, that's good. You can leave it. It's totally up to you, but as you can see in my notebooks, I like it to be a smaller line there. Just, I don't know, it's just my preference. Like I say, you can do whatever you like. At this point, you want to make sure you keep straightening your papers, because these last two cuts are the final two cuts, so you want to make sure your edges are as straight as possible. So you're going to cut the width length first, so whatever the width of your book is, cut your papers at that width. And then remember to straighten out your book. Sometimes that red line is on the back, you know, on the back of the page, which is totally fine because it would be on the left-hand side of the paper for the other side, but sometimes it's not. And the last cut you're going to make is the length of the book, so how tall the book is. And you just want to make it the exact same width and length cuts as the book is. Okay, so now we have our first cut, and I always like to put it in the notebook and make sure that it fits okay before I cut all of my papers. So just gonna check to make sure it looks good in there, and it looks pretty good. The book's a little worn, but that's okay. It adds to the character, but it looks like the pages fit in there real nice. So now you want to cut the rest of your papers. I typically cut about 100 pages for the book, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now grab the papers you chose to decorate the inside of your book. I'm using for the inside of my book a paper from the Rustic Stack from DCWV. I'm going to cut and adhere the paper to the inside front cover, the inside back cover, and then the back of the book. I'm going to cut 3 pieces of paper, 2 for the inside and 1 for the outside, at the exact same width and height of the book again. To adhere the paper onto the inside covers of the book, I'm just using Scor-tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Scor-tape on the top and bottom of the book first. And I'll show you a little trick that I learned from Kathy Orta. It just makes it so easy to put the paper on there evenly. So I'm going to go ahead and do the top and bottom first, and then the sides. Now I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to make sure that Scor-tape is adhered really well to the paper, because you don't want it coming off when you go to attach it onto the inside of the books. And then the little trick I learned is you line it up, and all you're going to do is take off the very top tape and then line it up to your book. And once you have it very straight, you're going to go ahead and just press down on where the adhesive is exposed. And then all you have to do is lift up the page and take off all the rest of your tape, and it should lie flat down onto your surface, making for a nice clean look. And that again is Kathy Orta-King who showed me how to do that. That's where I learned it, and I'll put a link to her page in the description below. And as you can see, just push it down a little. You use your bone folder, make sure it's really adhered on really well, and as you can see, it's nice and even. Perfect. I'm going to do the same thing for the inside and back of the back cover, and I'll see you back here when I'm done. It's time now to assemble the book back and then put the lined paper in that you cut, the 100 pages. So grab those, and what I do is I just kind of, I just cut the stack in half. It doesn't really have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be accurate. Just you want to put half of the paper up front and then the other half in the back, just like that. You just want to make sure it's all even, that it looks even, looks pretty good. I like the way this looks. It turned out really nice. Okay, so I forgot to put the ribbon marker on before I put the paper on the back page there. So, but no big deal, we'll just improvise. So I'm going to go ahead and place it on there afterwards. So just figuring out here where I want to put the ribbon. And I'm just going to attach it to the back page with some Scor-tape. And you can put the ribbon anywhere, but you do want to place it far enough away from the left side so the binding won't be affected. It is very hard to cut holes through ribbons, so you just want to make sure that you place it far enough away from the left edge. I'm using a piece of scrap from the back cover. I just made a little scalloped edges on it. I'm going to cover that up so that it kind of looks like it was always meant to be there. So all I'm going to do is add adhesive onto the sides of this and adhere it down to the back. Okay, now we're going to make the binding of our project using this O-wire. And the tool we're going to use to put the binding onto the book is this Zutter Bind It All. This is the binding tool we're using. You want to set up your tool in a place that'll be easy for you to pull down on the lever. Make sure you stabilize it. We'll start with the cover, and you want to put your setting at the letter C. The little arrow should be pointed at the letter C. That is the cover setting, and it should allow you to do your cover. There's a little bit of a difference between each of the settings, but that's the one you want to use for the cover first. So you want to put your cover in and butt it up against the guide and pull down on the lever. and then you'll see that it's made some perfectly spaced holes in the cover, and that's how you want it to look. Now in order to punch the rest of the holes, we want to change our guide over to the letter B. So the arrow is pointing at the letter B. We want to have that little tab sticking out because that's what we're going to put one of the holes in. And I believe it's the second to the last hole to put that tab through. And that'll keep it nice and straight. It's a little hard to get it in there, but once you do, then you just push your lever down and now you have more holes. Eventually. Okay, we're going to take that other, and I believe we have room for maybe 2 more holes, maybe 1 more hole. Just kind of guiding it, trying to figure out, just trying to gauge it here. So if we have 2 more holes, then you want to make sure that last hole that was punched goes in where the 3rd hole is, so that you can line it up and see where your holes are going to get punched. And you just put it on that little tab there, push it down, and then we should have our cover with all the holes in it. Easy. So now I'm just going to punch the same holes in all the paper and then eventually the back cover. So you want to follow the exact same steps as you did for the cover and just keep everything exactly the same. Otherwise the holes won't line up, so that's very important. You want to just take the book exactly as it is and keep it in exact order and do the exact same thing every time. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video here. Okay, now you just want to do the same thing for all the papers, the story, and the back cover. Same thing for all of it, and I'll see you here when we're done with that. Okay, we will need to trim down our O wires and make it as small as the book is. These O wires come in these long strips, so I'm just counting how many holes I have in my book, and then I'm going to count that many of the little finger parts of the O wire. So just counting, I believe there's 14. So then I'm going to take a pair of wire cutters and just cut in between the 14th and the 15th finger thing. And there we go. Okay, now we're going to put the binding on. So we want to take our book and take the back cover and flip it all the way around to the front as if it was already bound. We want the back cover to be on the front, on top of the front page. Then we're just going to give it one little turn here, and then we'll take our O wire binding, and I've already cut it down to as many holes as there are. And you put just the little finger part in there. Make sure it goes through each of the holes. Okay, there you go. And this is a 3/4 inch white O wire that I got from online somewhere. So now you're going to take and put it in the actual binding part of the tool. You want to make sure your thing is set at the whatever your O wire is. In this case it's 3/4 inch, so it's set at the 3/4 inch mark. So you're going to put the book in there and you want to slightly press down on all of the bindings, not too much, but just keep it snug. Then you push down on the lever and it'll push the little thing over that makes it come together, and you just want to do the same thing through the whole length of your book. And this part takes a little bit of practice. Sometimes you get it right the first time, other times you don't. You can always just, push more down or pull them apart if they're too close, but it does take some practice. So there we have that. Okay, it turned out pretty cute here. It looks like it's all even and the binding looks good. I have my marker ribbon, and just put it anywhere in the book. It's cute. It's really long here, so I'm going to cut it down just a little bit, and just using a regular pair of scissors, cutting it down. I always like to make the end of the ribbon look cute, so just cutting it at an angle. Okay, and then that's it. So if you want, you could put some pockets in the front or whatever. You got your notebook paper, then the story or the hymns in this case. Super cute. Notebook paper in the back. Yep, so there we have it. Nice and cute.